Hello, friends. On air from Nashville, it's me, Ruth Rosen.
And on air from Seattle, it's me, Tim Tackett. Welcome to the Let It Be podcast. In today's episode, we go to a snowy morning in Leavenworth, where we are sitting down with our guest, Myles, also known as Sasquatch. Myles is a private guy. He loves music. He's a builder. He has survived some of the toughest adversity all at once: diabetes, colon cancer, chemo, heart attack. And Myles' story is just a reminder to take control of your health, embrace resilience, find hope and humor even in life's toughest moments. But before we dive in and transport ourselves to snowy Leavenworth.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you doing today?
I'm good. It's cold. It's very cold here.
Cold in Nashville?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
But and today's a big day, right? It's your husband's birthday.
It is. It is.
That's great.
So
Do you have
as
good
soon
plans?
as we're done with, we're going to watch football, go to lunch, see the kids, see the dogs. So, yes. So, Tim, before we dive into meeting Myles and have this new conversation, what'd you think about last episode's question? Do you remember what we asked?
I do. Yeah, it was, what guilt are you carrying right now that you no longer need, and how can you replace it with joy?
Did you think about that question, Tim?
I was going to ask you that.
No, I beat you to it. Did you think about that since our last conversation?
You know, I didn't at first. But as I thought about it, you know, people in the world, people we know, they deal with different types of guilt, and some are extreme and some are not. And it's all relevant to who you are, the life you live. And mine is, might be silly, but we talk about Gordy a lot. And I feel guilty when I have to take Gordy to dog camp because I don't think that it's a great dog camp. And when it's raining, there's no indoor. He's outside all day. And for all I know, that dog probably loves it. Probably loves being out in the rain. He's a husky. But for whatever reason, all I can think about all day when I'm driving around is I feel guilty for dropping my dog off and not spending the day with him. It's,
and how can you let that go? And what kind of joy could you replace it with?
Well, the question isn't what kind of joy, but how.
Well, you're right, but you were relating it to a circumstance with dropping the dog off and having that guilt, but what joy can you replace it with?
Well, so I thought about what Scott said and not living in condemnation, where you are the provider of the guilt. Like you are the one that makes yourself feel guilty. So you're also the one that has to make the choice to change. So I know if I don't like the camp, I got to find a new camp. If I don't like the conditions that he's in, I have to find a different condition. It's
because
entirely...
Gordy can't decide that for himself. You have to do it for him.
He is the victim of my decisions, and I am the victim of my guilt. So have started looking on this app called Rover, which shows you like local families, people that will babysit or come and walk your dog. And so it's something that in the new year, I've made an agreement with myself and Bethany that, you know, let's find something different. I just want to open my own doggy daycare.
Yes.
Like that.
In Nashville.
Any investors out there?
Nashville.
So that's what I thought about. What about you?
Well, it is the season of joy. So do you know that this is the 20th Christmas without Carla? And there's been very difficult years. There's been numb years, but I realized that I can let that guilt of so many years have gone by that maybe I didn't have the most joy in my heart, but I have the opportunity to let that go and replace it with joy right now. Be in the season, be in the moment, create some new opportunities for Michael and I and the kids to just have a Merry Christmas.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Are you excited? Are you excited for this?
Yeah, I have not pulled out the Christmas ornaments in 20 years. I decorated trees, but with new ornaments.
Mhm.
This year, I decorated the tree with all the childhood ornaments.
Oh, that's
First time in
nice.
20 years. So, yeah.
Did you find anything that made you
Yeah.
stop what you were doing and just sit down and relive some good moments?
It took me a few hours to decorate the tree. So, if that's your answer, yeah.
I
So,
love it.
anyway, so last episode we had Pastor Scott Heider who brought a
Mhm.
biblical perspective. He answered questions. He was just, I could have listened
Yeah.
to him
It was great
all
talking to
day
him.
long. But now we have Myles. Not only is your friend, but Myles does not have a belief in God.
Mhm.
And so we're going to hear a completely different perspective on the same learned wisdom,
Mhm.
but a little bit different direction, which we're going to focus on tomorrow. So
Yeah. That's what we
I'm
do.
excited. I'm excited to meet Myles. So
Yeah,
let's
I
do it,
think you're gonna
Tim.
like
Let's
him. I think you're
let's
gonna
do it.
like him.
I can't wait to meet him.
I'm very picky about my friends, so I think you'll see why we get along so well. Good morning, Myles. Thank you so much for joining us on the Let It Be podcast. You have a beautiful morning already, don't you?
Yeah, no, I'm out here in Leavenworth, Washington with about 6 inches of snow on the ground. It's
That's awesome.
real nice and peaceful.
Good morning, Myles. And it is so incredibly nice to meet you. And you're one of my brother's great friends. And I have been so excited to meet you. So thank you for
Great.
joining
No,
us today.
this will be fun. This will be fun for sure.
And you and I, Myles, have known each other for some time. We've known each other for about 15 years, but
Yeah.
really just started hanging out and doing stupid stuff for the last 10 maybe. So it's
And
been,
floating down the river together.
yeah.
We've done that a couple of 2, 3 times.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
a little bit about you for our listeners, Myles. You grew up in the Pacific Northwest. You grew up in Bothell, and you grew up in what you call a traditional household. You had three brothers. Your dad was a school principal. Your mom was around raising you as kids, and you're the oldest of three brothers. And I think my favorite thing about you is seeing your old yearbook photo years ago, and you had long hair and you were just an absolute rocker. And then our friendship just kind of grew, and we have the same taste in music. You saw my record collection and you were like, you like Guy Clark? Who
Yeah.
is this guy? And
Yeah.
then I go to your place and you've got like 4 guitars hanging around. And I think our love of music is something that definitely just kind of like was like, yep, we're gonna be friends. And you like beer and you hunt Sasquatch, and just like
I
all these
can't wait to
things.
ask about that.
Yeah. And one of the most unique things about you, your love of building things, and you've been a cabinet maker. You have a huge shop, and you actually built a ton of exhibits at the Woodland Park Zoo. Like, were they like tigers exhibit and penguin? There's a couple other things
Sloth
too.
bears, otters, did stuff at orangutans and grizzly bears and all kinds of stuff.
That's so cool. And
Yeah.
the like the walkway
Such
too, right?
incredible
Like the
passion.
Yeah,
veranda.
exactly.
Yeah. So if anyone ever gets out to Seattle and goes to the Woodland Park Zoo and you look around, you can think like, wow, this is Miles's backyard and these are his
Pretty
animals.
much,
yeah.
And
You are in the Christmas spirit. You have your Christmas mug. I love it.
Cool. Yeah. That was the one that was on the shelf nearest the coffee maker. So
Do you have kind of the changing of the mugs for the holidays? Does your wife take the mugs and make them all then the holiday mugs?
Christmas theme is the only one that changes. Then you
Okay.
kind of go back to regular time.
You
Just
might
like
have
when
just
I was a
offended
kid, there
people.
was two seasons or 3 seasons: summertime, Christmas time, and regular time. And
Well, I mean, if you live in Leavenworth, isn't every time Christmas time, right? Leavenworth is a
pretty
Christmas-based
much, yes,
Bavarian village.
especially when you have 3 Christmas stores that are open year round. We live on the east side of the Cascades, just like a half hour from the crest, and it's much different climate here where we're basically in the mountains.
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
so we get a lot of times the snow with the precipitation that they get is rain on the other side, which, makes trying to get to work and back sometimes a little bit fun.
A little
Fun
challenging.
is the word. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
You also have a great story of how you started to become a builder, and
Oh,
your dad, um, or was it your dad and your grandpa gave you like hand tools and a bunch of like
mhm.
endless supply of used lumber, and you just started building a fort, and eventually the city building department came out and told you that your fort violated building code?
Yes. I had my fort red tagged by the building department at age 8.
Well, in the house you're in now, you built, and there's a
Yes.
garage that's bigger than most people's houses that they could dream
Yes.
of, and just your property overall. It's awesome to go out and see what you've built and just done on your own with your hands, and just like a true engineer and builder. Yeah, you should
It's
see this place, Ruthie.
basically what we've kind of always wanted. And the shop is like 600 square feet bigger than the house.
Wow.
And
Well, that's where you brew all your beer.
this is where we brew the beer. And Michelle does she does fused glass art out there.
No wonder Tim loves coming to visit you. Not only you as a person and floating down the river, but what an experience just coming to visit.
Sure. What I
Yeah.
think is always really a lot of fun is when we just, in the summertime, when it's nice and warm out, we just sit out on the patio and you have drinks and basically pass the music around and go, okay, it's your
Oh,
turn to
that's
put
fun.
something on,
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And at
And
night
Pass
it's
the
so
music is
clear.
fun.
I mean,
yeah,
you see there's no light. You look up at the sky, and you have these chairs that you sit in, and they just kind of like recline back, and
Oh, wow.
yeah.
yeah, that's a good
And
time.
then, yeah, you just look up at the stars.
Miles, do you have kids?
I do not.
He has a dog,
I have a dog.
And
Rose.
how long have you and your wife been married?
We've been together.
Not married.
We're not married, but not married about 16 years, I think, something like that. And
Wow.
there isn't any rhyme or reason to why we have or haven't. I mean, we even get down to the practical questions of talking to the accountant, which is better. There's always that thing of, should we, do we need to, do we not, And I think the biggest thing for both of us is neither of us would want to have a wedding ceremony. And I think that always makes it a lot easier to not do it.
You're private individuals.
It just would feel just weird to have that attention brought to you, I think. I can do it
Well,
in other stupid ways.
and that's what makes it even more special that you said yes to joining us today because of you being so private that you're willing to
Yeah.
talk to us and let us ask you a few questions.
Yeah. Thanks for being here. I told you a little bit yesterday, Ruthie wrote a book
Mhm.
about the time when her daughter was going through cancer, and it's called Never Give Up. And this show really focuses on bringing hope and encouragement to others. And we really kind of have parsed out our shows based on the learned wisdoms from Ruthie's book.
Mhm.
And I did read it for you yesterday, but I'm going to have Ruthie go ahead and read that piece if she could.
I would love to. If you find yourself experiencing a rare moment of normalcy, don't feel guilty, soak it up and enjoy it, and give yourself the gift of not worrying about tomorrow. When we say worrying about tomorrow, what does that mean to you, Myles?
Well, worrying about tomorrow is either short term or long term. It could be literally what's my day-to-day things I have to do tomorrow, or long term in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, etc.
Well, let's first dive into your story, Myles, because it's so unique. And I know that there are people who have gone through some of the adversity that you've gone through, but probably not all of it at once. And you just kind of like experienced it, all this adversity at once. And tell us a little bit about it if you could.
Yes,
Sure.
please.
Um, I would say I've always been one of those types of people that would only go to the doctor for a particular item. Hey, I hurt my finger
Yeah.
or, whatever kind of scenario, have a sinus infection and give me some medicine. But I didn't for the longest time. And then when I was in my mid 30s, I said, okay, I need to just go for a physical. And then when I did that, I had found out that I was diabetic, and which kind of felt like one of those, life-changing moments. It didn't surprise me because I had a lot of family history of it and things like that. And it worried me to a certain degree that, hey, if people know this, I'll be treated differently and things like that. And then shortly was able to manage it, get it under control. And I did feel better overall, but that was kind of my first experience with, I would say, long-term medicine, if you will. Never had to take any daily pills before or anything, and just the whole thing. And then what had happened in late 2020, my doctor that I'd had for a long time was retiring, and he said, hey, you know what? You're not quite to the age of screening for colon cancer, but you're getting close. I'm retiring. You're at this physical appointment with me. Why don't you go in and do a colonoscopy? So I'm like, okay, sure. Be nice to just have that clear for a while. And I've never had this kind of procedure before or anything. And so the first part of it was probably like January 3rd of 2021. This is all still during COVID times.
Mm.
I went in and then they said, hey, you know what? You have colon cancer. And so that just completely changed everything because had no idea what to expect, what to feel, what to know. And then they start with a barrage of doctors and appointments and all this kind of thing where I had to go and get surgery. And so that went about roughly a month later from when I was diagnosed, 3 weeks, a month, as soon as they could fit you in kind of thing. And was recovering from that. And then they wanted to do, beyond the surgery, they wanted to do chemotherapy. So I had started the chemotherapy, and they had told me, there's lots of different effects you can have with the chemotherapy, including chest pains and dizziness and all this kind of stuff. And I was still recovering from the surgery. So that was always kind of a oddball one to kind of know what's surgery related and what's chemo. And then one day I was at home by myself, and I'm like, I'm feeling chest pains. And so I decided to call the clinic that was dealing with me. And I'm like, hey, you know what? I got these chest pains like you were talking about. They were definitely noticeable, but not severe. And so they're like, you're probably fine, but we'd like you to come in to get looked at the hospital. And so where I was actually at the time, I wasn't home here. I was somewhere else, but had called my dad because my dad was nearby, like within 15 minutes. Hey, Dad, can you take me to the hospital? I'm having chest pains. And, oh, okay, I know what that's like. And so he goes and drops me off at the turnaround, like dropping a kid off at school. And I
Have
go
a good
walking.
test.
Yeah.
I go walking.
Routine.
Yeah, I go walking in there and I'm like, yeah, hey, oh, yeah, we know you're coming. Let's get you. So later on, Michelle was able to get there because she was coming up from a meeting somewhere else, that was maybe an hour and a half away. And she gets there and we're talking and they're running all these tests and hey, everything's great and fine. And we should have you out of here in a few minutes. And so we're talking about, hey, it's getting a little bit later. Where should we go to dinner? That kind of stuff. And then they're walking, they're like, no, this isn't going to happen. You're staying here at the hospital. And then they're like, oh yeah, no, you had a heart attack. And I remember the day because it was March 30th or whatever. And I remember having all these wires and nodes and IVs and all this attached to me. And I was trying to text Tim happy birthday with all this stuff attached. It's like, happy birthday, Tim. Oh, by the way, I'm in the hospital with a heart attack.
Oh my
So,
goodness.
Yeah, I remember getting
so
that text like, what? Why are you even texting me, Myles?
I think you did do that, didn't you? And so then that basically put all of my treatments on standstill. The cancer doctors didn't know what to do because of the heart, and the heart doctors didn't know what to do because of the cancer. And it was kind of this real whirlwind of now what? And they finally had found a specialist somewhere in Seattle that dealt with heart and cancer. I guess that exists,
Wow.
And
Yeah,
diabetes.
yeah, they didn't really seem to pull that into the mix, fortunately, because then they would have been, oh, now we gotta get another guy, you know. But so what had happened there is through seeing this doctor, and I can't remember if I even had done some medicine or whatever with this for a few months. They felt that my heart was strong enough to get back onto chemo. And so pretty much that most of that year of 2021 was based on, surgeries, heart attack, chemo, all
Jeez.
this stuff, and
Mm.
finally trying to get that finished up towards the end of summer into fall. And kind of the long story short of it, I've been able to be cancer free now since I'm in the second tier of the monitoring phase, which is probably like twice a year. And thank you.
Yay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And my heart's doing fine. And when I saw my cardiologist the time before last, they were like, well, we'd like you to do a stress test, but no hurry whenever you want to go in and do this. And so I'm just like, yeah, let's schedule one. She's like, I'd like to do it in the next 2 to 3 years. And I'm like, let's just do it. And then I saw her not too long ago and she's like, yeah, your heart is completely recovered from the heart attack.
Wow.
So, in the heart attack,
Incredible.
basically, as they had decided, was caused by the chemo.
Hmm.
And the chemo had basically dislodged, something in an artery and locked it up,
Wow.
probably a miscellaneous Cheeto or something.
Yeah. I love that you bring up is kind of like the evolution of your thought process, Myles, of like
Mhm.
recognizing that in your 30s, early 30s, you only go to the doctor when you get stung by a bee or,
Mhm.
yeah, it's just something specific.
You
And it's
shoot
probably,
yourself with a nail gun or,
that's
Yeah, that
urgent care.
happens.
That's
Yeah.
not your family practitioner. But I was the same way. Like, I'm healthy. Why do I need a standing doctor? Like, I remember I would just go into the clinic and like I went so infrequently, like you, I
Sure.
never had the same person.
Right.
And what I hear now is when your doctor is like, yeah, we could do this in the next 2 or 3 years, your thought process is, no, we're gonna do this now. And so I love that evolution. And I think that, our listeners should definitely pick up on that because I wish I had a little bit more of that urgency or immediacy uh, long before I ever developed it.
I mean, I think we all do in hindsight, and sometimes the contributing factors might be something absolutely different, like, well, right now I have a job with good insurance, and who knows what's going to happen into that kind of scenario that might go through your head that has nothing to do with really, I should get checked out and looked at and get a clean bill of health. We all take our car into or do it ourselves, get the oil changed and check the tire pressure and all
Do
this
it
stuff, but
ourselves.
we don't do that to ourselves.
Yeah.
Correct. And we talked about that on an earlier episode. I think we've done it a couple times, that checking up on your marriage and just your mental health. It's the same
Sure.
thing, that we should not take for granted that we have the ability to choose self-care. And that's what you did. You chose self-care. I have a question for you, Myles, because I have several of them.
Oh,
But did you have any? No, no. No, I'm going to start nice, and then I'm going to let loose on a couple other questions. But
all
I
right.
think for me, first of all, is that your doctor retiring.
Hmm.
I don't think it was just a coincidence that he said, let's do this. Did you have any symptoms at
No,
all?
none whatsoever.
Wow.
And even in hindsight, looking back, there was nothing that I could pin to having this.
Wow.
Never had, stomach issues or, you know, just down the line of any symptoms that you read about, because I was curious after I was diagnosed to, okay, what did I miss as a
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
layperson of, looking through this? And there was nothing.
Wow.
And what's funny is that based on the fact that colon cancer can grow very slowly, that I could have started this 8 to 10 years before it
Hmm.
was diagnosed.
Wow.
So get out there and get your colon checked.
Pretty much, yeah. It's
Yeah.
it's an odd thing to talk to people about in polite society. Fortunately, I'm not polite in society, so it makes it a little bit easier, but
Well, now,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, I went and got tested after
sure.
talking to you,
Sure.
and
that's
my
great.
doctor said, You're too young. You don't need to get tested." And I, much like he was like, "No, I think we'll just go ahead and do it."
Sure.
And you have
Mhm.
to tell your doctor what you want, right?
Right.
You're in control. And so I went, and they found 3 polyps, and they were
Sure.
cancerous, and they said, "It's good you came in." And
Right.
I actually told a guy at work just randomly, and I said, "Have you gotten tested?" And he's 10 years older than me, and he said, "No." And I said, "Go get tested." And he
Sure.
did, and same thing. And so it's like I look at it as, you've had an experience, Myles, and I love that you're willing to share it, and you
Sure.
are
Yeah.
polite whether you think so or not, but
But
yeah.
I think one thing that it's the process of doing it is a little bit uncomfortable. It's not painful at all,
hmm
but it's
hmm
just, it really
Oh,
takes a
it's
little
the
bit of
prepping process.
Yeah, it's
the
the stuff they
prepping
make you
Let's,
process
drink.
let's
is,
get right
yes,
to it. It's the prepping
exactly.
process.
Right. And trying to talk about that is always, kind of just, when you're doing this, just hang close to home, really hang close to
Yeah.
your bathroom. Very
And
close.
might want to have your family go ahead and stay in a hotel for that night.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, being serious now, I do have a question.
Okay.
Surviving diabetes, getting yourself healthy to not let that progress, and
Hmm.
now you talked about your 30s, and then we're in 2021 when you get colon cancer and a heart attack.
Right.
Were you afraid of dying?
In certain ways, yes. I think that the initial thing that hit me was, okay, this is it. Nothing nothing's going to change anything. This is basically the way your story is going to get written. And it it was odd in the sense that I'm usually really good at wanting to fight the narrative, but I think I was so numb about it that I didn't even get to that point.
Did you pray?
I This is an interesting thing about that, is that while I was doing this, I felt I was so absorbed in the moment of what was all going on. I felt like I'm just turning myself over to the healthcare system and medicine and doctors and all that. It never necessarily crossed my mind. It was, if this is what's happening, I don't have a lot of redemption here. So just, it is what it is, and there is times that my parents would have, prayed for me. And I had people that I had worked with that say, hey, you know what, I don't know if you're a praying man or not, but I'm praying for you with all this. And it's like, hey, I took that a lot as, I genuinely appreciate your care and concern, is what struck me with that. And then I also think that what I did is, okay, this is what you're up against. So anything you can do to fight and cure this, you will do, be it uncomfortable, be it painful, be it whatever. And that's kind of what happened. But
Did you feel that you were fighting this fight by yourself? Like when you said you put it in the hands of the medical, so it was okay, me, and then medical, and whatever happens, like that was it. There was no, you didn't feel like, I'm going to say God. I asked you if you prayed, but did you ever feel him?
I don't really know, to be honest with you, if I did or didn't, because, knowing that, like I said, my parents, especially my mom, is religious and goes to church, most Sundays and things like that. If you talk to her, would say, God did this, God did. And so, but it still circles back to the way I felt when I was 7 or 8 about the whole thing.
Did you ever have a relationship with God?
Yeah, you were explaining how you grew up, Miles, and I actually didn't know that.
Sure. Well, I mean, to explain all this is, um, my my parents, got married in a Catholic church. My mom was Catholic, and my dad, he grew up like Seven-Day Adventist through his grandparents. His parents were
Hmm.
not religious, but his grandparents kind of tied them into that. So my dad didn't necessarily go to church, but he had kind of a religious slant at times. And growing up, my mom would try to read us, you know, stories, not necessarily Bible stories, but everything I remember was all about like Christmas and,
Hmm.
robes and camels and, wise men and all this stuff. And then they didn't make us go to church regularly or at all, because we were thought to be too disruptive. And like, if my
Interesting.
mom would go to church, sometimes we'd have to sit in the car and play with our Hot Wheels till mom got out.
Wow.
So,
What?
oh yeah. And then the worst one is that
Wow.
all of a sudden they'd be like, oh, Christmas is tomorrow. If you want your presents, we're all going to have to go to church here And the threat of losing your presence
Wow.
was the
The
Huh.
motivator to get to church.
it was a motivator, and it was kind of like, okay, how much longer is this? How much longer is this? And I did go through, I think it was like first communion when I had a little clip-on tie and I had to do these classes and stuff. And I remember telling my mom, I don't like this.
Mm.
I mean, just like I didn't want to have to go to any more school than I already was. And so then I didn't necessarily have to after that. And
Hmm.
I feel like my big, I would say, experience of religion is basically that of what young children know. And so, since I've kind of grabbed pieces and parts of
Mhm.
my potential views on
Mhm.
how things are, I guess, but that was always what I knew of it is, if you don't go on Christmas Eve, you're not going to get your presents.
Mm.
Well, then we're going to tell Santa, well, Santa doesn't know that. You guys do. And I know, you know.
Yeah.
That's
So,
interesting.
so yeah, no, it was always the thing. But my mom, still to this day, she's, in her 80s and will go to church every Sunday. And I don't think she gets really involved in the church at all anymore, just goes and then comes home. But it's just kind of one of those got to do it, kind of things.
Do you and her ever talk about God now that you are a survivor of all this and um,
Um,
traumatic
no,
life
I get
changing
that.
events?
Yeah.
I mean, I think that if we start talking about stuff, there will be the medical-ish things, and then there will be, she might pull something like that in. But they're real funny about not wanting to acknowledge that anybody was sick. Like when my dad had a heart attack,
Wow.
my mom had hated it that the aid car came in front of their house and wanted it to park 2 doors down so it didn't look like, it was for my father.
Wow.
Wow.
Very
Oh,
proud.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then my mom had a stroke not too long ago, maybe a year or two ago. And the only reason why we knew that is my brother had traced my parents' phone to the hospital and they had not left, but they wouldn't answer the phone, but they wouldn't really explain why mom was in the hospital.
Wow, they didn't even really want to let you know.
Yeah. And what's really funny is that, medically, my mom's always talked about, family history being important, et cetera, et cetera. And
Hmm.
I always found that to be extremely important, especially like with the diabetes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then it's kind of like, yeah, as you get older, things will happen. Yes, you're in good shape. My dad exercises constantly every day. And my mom goes on walks and they don't drink, they don't smoke, they, eat healthy, things
Pretty
like
healthy
that.
people.
And so,
What about you, Miles? Do you feel that you live cautiously or recklessly now that you're a survivor of so much?
um, that's a really good question. I'd say I'm cautiously reckless.
Today, do you worry about tomorrow?
I do a little bit more kind of the long term tomorrow because I always kind of have a running scenario of what I'd like to see it in, not necessarily in 5 years, I'm going to be here. In 6 years, I'm going to be here. But, kind of where I'd like to see things go. And, if there was a knowledge of, hey, in 2 years, the chance of you being alive is, very slim, it might completely change that script or scenario. And that's one of the things when I had gone into the cancer doctor initially is they really start talking about here's where you are, here's the percentages of people that survive beyond a certain point. And it can be very depressing,
Mm.
because if that's your initial meeting, then after that, it's like, okay, good, we're gonna jump in here and do this. But they feel like this is important to give you a baseline of what they know
Mhm.
factually through science.
Yeah.
And, here's all this research that's been done.
Mhm.
And with this research, this tells you what your potential odds are.
Let me ask a couple of questions because this is interesting.
Sure.
Hearing you talk about tomorrow in 5 years and 10 years,
Right.
would you say that you're more of a person that is, and maybe it's changed, but are you more of a like, God, I got to get out there and I got to do that. I got to get this done in the garage, but I got to put one foot in front of the other and I got to get out there and do that? Or are you the type of person who today is going to look out the window and say, gosh, it sure is beautiful. You know what? I can get to that later. I'm just going to relax and stay inside.
I'm I'm the first thing on that. I mean, I cannot get, or I have to just kind of get out there and get on it. The feeling of, oh, hey, even if it was smaller or only had a couple hours, I was able to take care of something, really, really small. Like, hey, I broke down the cardboard boxes to put in the recycle so they're ready to go, kind of thing. But yeah,
S
that's always been me. And it was funny because, just going on vacation, all that kind of stuff, I'm in Hawaii and I'm not,
It drive you
uh,
crazy.
in certain ways, yeah. You
Yeah.
just, hey, if I was home and I had this, I'll call it downtime moment, I could be
Yeah.
in,
Doing this, this, and this,
doing
this,
this or
this.
doing that, or, things like that.
Yeah.
I wanna go backwards to something you said. I asked you about how do you think about tomorrow, and do you worry about tomorrow? And you said if they gave me a reason, like told me I only had a few years, that you would look at it different.
Hmm.
Why are you waiting for anyone to tell you how much time you have? Uh, why are you not taking today and living like we're not guaranteed tomorrow? Because we're not.
I think, or sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off
No,
there.
I just,
All right.
yeah, because
I
you're such
think
an
that
awesome human. I just, yeah.
I think the biggest thing for me is I'll just call it the logistical realities of if I knew that I had 2 years that, for example, that maybe I would stop working and maybe I would really focus on hobbies or things like that. Being able to identify what needs to happen and get on it. And it would I think I would be at peace with it, but it would have to be something that was irreversible. It would have to be where, okay, this is the direction in which I'm going, and I have to understand the consequences of, hey, if I said there was 2 years left and I'm here for 15 and now I don't have any money and my house is foreclosed on,
Mhm. When you think about tomorrow, do you feel more trust or more worry?
I think the initial thing comes up as a little of both. I think that you have to trust in what you feel that you have a level of control on, and you have to have worry be present so you're not being overtly reckless, but you can't dwell on it because you still have to we all have a certain amount of time on this planet and be able to do what we can to be able to make it to the finish line, even though none of us really truly know when that's going to be.
Yeah. I'm curious. something that just came up for me. Miles, did anything change when you were in the hospital or you were going through chemo or you were, kind of lost in your thoughts? Did anything change in maybe your value system or um, kind of the direction you were heading or the way you treated people or the way you treated yourself? Like, was there any kind of aha moment or?
The interesting thing with all of that is I was so in the moment of whatever the thing was, trying to recover from the colon surgery, starting the chemo, going through all of that discomfort and regimen and all that. And it just seemed like I never got a moment to step back and kind of look at a larger picture. And I think that in a way that was helpful to get through it because then the worry and the fret wasn't present. It was just, I need to, uh, hey, if I'm tired, I'm gonna sleep. If I gotta make sure that I wake up in time to take my chemo. I gotta
Mhm.
all of these kinds of things, and then try to find some level of normalcy because there are periods when you almost feel like a normal person, and then 10 minutes later, you can completely crash and burn. And I really learned that one the hard way when I was sick and on the chemo, and we had a tree taken down for us. And next door neighbor had said, "Hey, I'll pay for half the tree cutting if I can have half the firewood." And it was like, "Sure, absolutely, that'd be great." It was just next door that he lived, and I said, "Hey, you know what? If you stack this firewood on pallets, I will move the pallets to your house with the tractor." And I was on my third run. We're talking just a few hundred feet, and I got off the tractor and I sat down and I'm like, "Oh, I need some water." And then there was no way that I could get on the tractor and drive back this few hundred feet to the house. And they had to help me in a car and drive me a few hundred feet home.
Mm.
And I was so embarrassed because it's just like, this isn't what you're supposed to do. But it just became kind of a harsh reality of it. And also looking back on the whole entire experience of that, I'll just call it 8, 9 months that I had gone through, so much of it seems to be blocked out of memory. And also, it feels a lot longer ago than it actually was. And I don't know if that's helpful or if it's not facing the true realities of
Mm.
what I need to do with it.
Well, I think that there is somebody who could help you decide what that means. But I want to ask you, who is God in your eyes?
God. He's a figure that allegedly can control everything, but nobody truly knows that or not, I guess, is
Hmm.
how I would put it. You know, I mean, and this is, like I said, based on that elementary school education of,
Hmm.
God did this and God did that. And, well, what does he look like? Well, we can't tell you. Well, what is it? How come we haven't met him? Well, how does he know everyone? All these questions that, you ask as a 5-year-old.
Since that was so long ago, and unfortunately, I don't think that you had the right introduction to God at all. I mean, I did not grow up with God religion in our family, but I
Sure.
can only go back to think about how I chose to introduce God to our family. So a lot of years have gone by. Have you ever wanted to find out who God is or have questions that you think, wow, I wonder this. And I know you said that you listened to our podcast. And so you know that
Sure.
I've asked Tim questions around God.
Oh, yeah.
Um, and have you ever wanted to? I mean,
I
has there been a
think that
question?
as I have progressed through life, I've had many different, I don't know if I want to call them flat out negative, but just uncomfortable-ish experiences with religion. And for example, when I think I was in junior high school, my dad, when he was a school principal, had a teacher whose husband was a pastor. And so she had gotten my dad to go to this church and, just kind of do that a little bit. And my two youngest brothers went there and then, they had asked me, "Hey, would you like to come along sometime too?" And I'm like, "Sure, I'll do that." And I could not believe the level of treatment that I received from these people of they did not want me to be my individualist self. And I thought that when I was going there, was talking to the pastor one day and just, as a 13-year-old or whatever, asking him, what a member of a church was. And I'm like, "So
Yeah.
am I a member?" And, "Oh, no, you have to," and I'm just like, oh my, I felt
Oh.
so shunned by these people. And when I would
Uh-huh.
see the few that I went to junior high with, they wouldn't talk to me in the hallways. They wouldn't anything. And it was just like, is this what it is?
Yeah.
And it was very, and I think eventually my mom had gotten a little frustrated with my dad and go, "Well, you guys can't go to this thing
Oh,
anymore." But
I'm
Wow, your
so
mom said that.
sorry.
yeah,
Oh,
but it really, it was, because as a kid, um, I, had my jacket and it had a couple of buttons from heavy metal bands on it. And they're like, "Well, you need to take those off your jacket
oh,
walking into the building." I'm like, "It's my jacket. I'm not,
wow.
you know." And
I'm
I
so
just
sorry.
remember that experience and then trying to
Yeah.
be part of one of their Sunday school classes where the entire Sunday school group basically it was a small group, but it was like, "We're this and you're
You're an
that."
Oh,
outsider.
terrible. I'm so sorry that you had that experience. I truly am. I wish that you didn't have all that. So I want to go back to that because I could see why, number one, you don't want to learn about God and why you haven't turned to Him and why you haven't prayed because you were introduced to that wasn't God, that was people's belief system. And so I want to ask you, do you have a Bible?
I do not.
Would it be okay if I got you one? You don't have
If
to
I
open it.
if I had one, it'd just be another book on the shelf kind of
Okay.
thing. It's just my parents had one and I never even looked at it. When I think there was a couple of times when they sat us on the couch and "Hey, let's look at what it was." And it would always be something related to Christmas. They had told us a little bit about the Easter story, but didn't make us go on Easter. And I think trying to get your Easter basket and the candy wasn't enough of a thing to make
I
us
don't
go.
know. I got some pretty rocking Easter baskets. I would have gone.
Well, I just stole my brother's.
uh,
Wow. Wow.
well,
I still have more questions. I know, Tim, you have some questions, and I've just been trying to get to all of mine.
okay. Well, I actually want to bring up the fact that, if any of our listeners are able to visit Leavenworth, which is a beautiful, beautiful town, but you're giving a presentation at the Bushel and Bee on Sasquatch, and the Bushel and Bee is it's really kind of a locals only tavern, but you'd get some of the tourists that go in there. But they do this thing where someone, a regular, gives a presentation on a topic. I think the last person did like what was it? Taylor Swift and Kelsey gave a
Yeah.
presentation on them, and he knows nothing about those two. And but now you're going in January, so if our listeners want to go learn a little bit more about you, they can go to the Bushel and Bee in January and hear your
Unfortunately, I don't
presentation.
have the date scheduled as of yet, but
Yeah, we can put
and
something out on social media
And
for
I'm
you.
so glad you're bringing this up because I have been wanting to ask
oh geez.
why your name Sasquatch. I mean, do you believe in that?
Oh, I just think it's fun. I think is the best way to approach it. I get, it's one of those things that if truly they exist, that would be great. But it's fun to hear stories. It's fun to do all that. When
Have you ever
people
went on
get
a hunt?
um the funny thing to that, I did once, and this was with somebody that I knew from the zoo, and he was serious about all this, and I don't care if anybody knows that I am into this or whatever, and he was on podcasts. I guess this is way back when podcasts first got going, and he's like, "Look, you want to go on one of these adventures and we're going to find one?" I'm like, I have no idea what to expect. I'm like, sure.
Sounds
He's
like a
like,
camping trip.
no, well, yeah, we didn't even go camping. We just went for the day. And so I went and picked him up in my truck. He taped a camera to the dash, and then we drove forest roads out near where I live now and looking for, and of course we saw nothing. And
Oh, that's a surprise.
yeah, I think if it can be a little lighthearted and fun, I think that's just kind of the way to go with it.
How do you find peace?
How do I find peace?
Because peace has come up a couple different times as you're talking.
How I find peace. I think sometimes just in moments of pause, and it can come just sometime randomly of, oh, wow, look what's been achieved, look where things are going. And it's almost kind of a moment of just kind of like a checkpoint in a way, a little bit. I think that instead of going, okay, well, this is done or that's done, now I move on to the next. All right, take a breath, see where something is. I think that's it, but I'm not very good at it.
Like a
I'm not.
completion of a project kind of feeling of.
Yeah, I'm not very good at, okay. y- Um, it's like sometimes you can make a completely unrealistic list of what you'd like to get done in a day. And then, I have a tendency to get frustrated. Well, I didn't hit this, and this, but what in my mind
I'm
was
the
going
same,
to be a
Miles.
half hour took me 3 hours.
Yeah. I always
So,
underestimate the time it's going to take to do something. It's like, oh my
yeah.
God, this has taken me 3 weeks. I thought I could do it in a day.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I still
Yeah.
have this stuff lying around for 10 years and I haven't done anything with it. Yeah.
Well,
No,
and
I
then you
hear you.
get the snow thrown in there, and it's like, oh God, I can't even get out my door.
Well, I mean, that is a level of peace because I can't go out and do yard work,
You're right.
Yeah, true that.
Yeah.
you
So
know?
I just want to say how much I appreciate you letting me ask you all these
Sure.
godly questions and not telling me to be quiet. But I do have one last question.
Okay.
What is stopping you or being a roadblock to wanting a relationship with God?
I think it has to do with I'll just put it, actions as I've seen of his followers,
Mm.
if that makes sense.
Yes, absolutely.
And I think that, and this is going back to my elementary school-ish view of, God loves all people. Well, if God loves all people, then uh why do we, I don't know, justify putting somebody to death or something? Or I'm just using that as just an example of, it contradicts what I felt that my mom had told me. She never went into talking about hell. So that was never discussed. It was all basically kind of the positive, I guess, things about what God was supposed to be about. And that's what I understood it. And that's kind of where my knowledge stopped. And then I see
Hmm.
many contradictions to that. And, humans are humans, but if people are so much a follower of this, how are these contradictions so prevalent?
Mm.
That's a good answer.
That's a
I
great
appreciate that.
answer. It sounds like we need Scott back
I was
already.
just thinking that. Yeah, it
Uh-oh.
would be so interesting to spend a little time with Scott. And he was the pastor that we just had on, Myles, and we haven't
Okay.
released that episode yet, but
Yeah.
super
I would
cool.
love to hear some feedback from you
Sure.
after you listen to that episode and see if there's anything that you picked up on or have questions. You can
Sure.
definitely shoot those to Tim, and we can directly ask Scott and get his exact answer. So it's not coming from our interpretation, but from that of a pretty cool
Yeah.
pastor.
Yeah, he was
Next
pretty
thing you
cool.
know, you'll get a head to head of him and I on there.
Myles versus Scott.
Great. Yes.
Well,
Yes.
maybe by the time I get out to watch your presentation in
Yes.
January,
There you go.
you'll have some good notes.
Well, I'm going to ask. Normally, I would read a scripture, and I'm pretty sure. I mean, I'm not going to say, but I'm pretty sure you don't have a scripture ready for us.
I
But
don't. I
maybe,
can make one up, but it wouldn't be
yeah,
from.
no, that's okay. But maybe, do you have? I have one, if not. But do you have a quote or something that you would like to share? We'd love to have that.
Yeah, from the movie Spinal Tap. Have a good time all the time.
Have a good time all the time. Okay, so the next time
Yes.
I'm required to be serious, I'm going to say, well, no, Myles said,
Uh-huh.
have a good time
Yeah.
all the time.
You want another
No.
glass of wine, Ruthie? Yes, I do.
Don't you have a podcast with Myles and Tim in the morning? Oh, but I'm having a good time.
There you
Yeah.
go. Perfect.
Yeah, a friend of mine was trying to get me to have a drink last night. Well, maybe an extra drink. And I said, no, I'm meeting Myles tomorrow. I can't do that. Darn it, Myles. I wish I would have had
And then
your
when Tim and I
words
were,
of wisdom.
when Tim and I pre-met, we are both holding up our drinks to each other.
We were. Palomas.
Oh.
We made some palomas last night.
Well, I just am grateful that you said yes to this. And I feel like I want to be your friend. So,
Cool. Thank
I mean, you're my brother's friend, so that makes you already my friend.
What song did you choose, Mr.
Oh,
Myles?
I being so much into music and all that it just kind of hit me as a tough one of how do you just pick something that would really sum up all this. And I just, I didn't have time to really necessarily go through the catalog ish. But I did choose, Any Other Way, by Hayes Carl, because it's not necessarily lyrically a complete match of what I'm trying to do, but just kind of based on the, hey, this is what I've done, and have to really consider it as no regrets. And I
Mm.
think that that's why I chose that song.
Hayes Carl, Any Other Way.
Do you know
Yes.
that song, Tim?
Yes. Yeah, I've actually been listening to Hayes Carl since we were still buying CDs.
Oh, and I'm not familiar with Hayes Carl.
Yeah, and you being in Nashville too, I think he's someone that you would definitely have heard. So
And
he's
he lives there. Yeah.
and he lives there,
Great. Well, thanks for introducing something new to me.
and it's already on our
Yeah.
playlist. So you can go to our playlist
Fantastic.
on Spotify and give it a listen.
Yeah.
And never mind the fact that his band is the Band of Heathens.
Hey, this is, you know what my saying is? We are all God's children. No judgment. No judgment.
People are people.
People are people. That's right. Don't
Yeah.
let anybody tell you any different, Myles. We are all, like Scott said, we're all sinners. And he loves us just right where we're at.
Yeah. I love that Scott said that too, because, and you and I have talked about this, Ruthie, but our sins are all relative to who we are, right? Like Scott's sins were like, I got a little impatient with my wife. It's like, wow.
Good thing he didn't ask us about our sins, Tim.
Yeah.
Oh, what would we have done? Lie?
Yeah.
And then that's another one.
Myles, jumping into the nonprofit. Were you able to find any kind of nonprofit that you want to support?
And I didn't, but the one thing that I really want to, I'm really kind of passionate about is really trying to push early prevention for everybody that can, with the cancer. And just like anytime I ever hear a story of someone who has gone through it being successful, or, and there are occasions where it's not, is hearing those and hearing how people feel and how they got through all this. And I think having that dialogue, just even an informal dialogue that happens, is very important.
So less of a nonprofit and more of just a awareness for people who are listening, just early screening, early prevention.
For
you
sure.
have such a
It's
great
not that I
attitude.
wouldn't,
Yeah.
I wouldn't, throw support behind it, but I think that that's the piece I can do to try to make a difference.
Yeah, Ruthie just
Wow.
said you have a great attitude, and I would agree, Myles. You definitely have a positive attitude about it. You're not
Yes, you
mad.
do. Thank you.
No problem.
Myles, thanks for joining us. Thanks for being so positive.
Sure.
Gosh, did I enjoy that, meeting your
Yeah.
friend, Tim?
I'm so glad. I'm so glad you got to meet Myles. He is genuinely one of the nicest people that I know. And I don't have a lot of friends, but
Oh, I think you do.
I'm glad you got to meet him.
Yeah. Now I'm not going to lie though. The next time you tell me that you're hanging out with Myles floating down the river, I might be jealous.
Yeah, you should be. We have a pretty good time. Just, I mean, it's like 2 hours, and we're just sitting in a tube. Michelle usually has the paddleboard, and yeah, it's a good time.
Well, I want to go on the river and float down. I'll bring my Bible. Just ask him all kinds of questions. He's trapped and he can't leave me.
That is really a picture in my mind of a woman floating down the river, just reading her Bible and
With a
spouting
waterproof
scripture.
Bible. Hey, I've never seen a waterproof Bible.
You would look like an absolute crazy person.
I would. I would
Yeah.
leave the Bible and have a beer and still though talk about God.
You'd be shouting at
But-
people on the side of the river. You'd be like, "You there? Do not worry about tomorrow."
Oh my gosh. Okay. So he had a lot to say, and
Mhm.
I felt like we could definitely have another conversation with
Yeah.
him. I have some takeaways,
Yeah.
but
What-
I'd like to, yeah. What about you, Tim? Is there something that he shared
Yes.
that you can take away?
Yeah.
What is that?
And I brought it up in the moment, but his evolution of where he was in his life of not going to the doctor unless something specific happens, to being the champion of his own health and deciding, no, I want to do this. I'm not going to
Mhm.
wait 2 to 3 years, because he recognized, like, something happened to him that was not, he couldn't see. There was no
Mhm.
symptom. Like, it just started to
Mhm.
happen. Like, I think he said 8 to 10 years it could have happened. And his doctor said, no, let's just go ahead and do it. And he did. And thank
Mhm.
goodness,
Yeah.
or thank God that he did,
Mhm.
because who knows where he would be today if he had waited. And so I think that his message of, early screening, early preventative cause, like, just be the champion of your life.
Jen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What
Mhm.
about you? What was your main takeaway?
Well, I had a lot, and I felt like I could have asked him at least 10, 15 more questions. I didn't wanna just, be too forceful with, my faith questions, but something that really struck me is I think I just assumed that when somebody gets introduced to God and then stops, it's their choice. And after listening to his reasons why, he never had an opportunity to have a relationship with God. And God was put in a not the best light. And so he's never had an opportunity to actually build a relationship.
When things are hard, or it feels like there's a wall or a barrier, those
Uh-huh,
who truly believe break through the wall or barrier. So
uh-huh,
maybe it's delivered in another way. Who knows?
uh-huh.
Who knows?
Yeah, but
Maybe this was the
he did agree to read the book.
yeah. I mean,
So that's my motivation to get it finished.
if he does, I think maybe instead of a Bible first to build that
Uh-huh.
relationship,
That's
send him a box
exactly
of
what I was
Kleenex.
thinking. Oh, well, I wasn't thinking that. I
I
wasn't
could have used
thinking that.
that when I read that book.
Well, and I just want to say also, Tim, that I totally respect Miles' quote that he shared,
Oh yeah,
right? Have a good time all the time.
yeah,
But would it be okay if I still shared a Bible verse, Tim?
yeah. Of course it would. I always enjoy the scripture you bring. It's it is a highlight for me because I don't
Oh,
get exposed to it much otherwise. So what have you
well,
found?
I had pre-picked something just in case he said no, he didn't have anything. I was ready. But so Proverbs 3:5. For me, when I was early on in learning God's word, a friend sent me a card and it kept in my kitchen up on my shelf until I moved out of Chino Hills. And it says, Proverbs 3:5, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. And if you dive down a little deeper, there's a lot more to read. I wanted to bring to your attention. Bring your decisions to God in prayer. Use the Bible as your guide, and then follow God's leading. He will make your path straight by both guiding and protecting you. You don't have to do it alone. I think that's why that verse spoke to me, especially after listening. Myles, he's carrying a lot of weight on his own, and I wish that he just knew that God could uh, carry some of that weight for him.
Do you think that God
That's
is
it.
carrying the weight for him, whether Miles knows or not?
Ooh, gosh, let me get Scott out here. Um,
I know
God
that's
is there. God is there. But
is he only willing to help if Miles accepts it?
willing? No, he's willing all the time. But does Miles see? Okay. All right, I have an analogy for you. Okay, yeah, this is a good analogy. Ready?
Okay.
Okay, listen. This is the best way. I hope I am saying it the way I'm feeling right now. Have you ever been lifting something with somebody and you're using all your might to carry one side and it's so like this, and then the other person says, "No, you don't have to do it. I'm like totally good over here." And you've been carrying something that you actually put the heaviness of it on yourself because they already had it the whole time.
I know exactly that feeling when I played Light as a feather, stiff as a board.
But that feeling, that's when you said it is God carrying the weight for him. God's on the other side, and Myles is struggling to carry it all himself when the whole time God says, I got this.
Let it be.
Let it be.
What would change if caring for your future meant taking a simple step today, not waiting for symptoms to decide for you?
Until next time, goodbye, friends.
Thanks, everyone. We're so glad you're here. Did today's episode give you a little boost of hope and encouragement right when you needed it? If it did, we'd love it if you'd hit that like button, subscribe, and maybe even share it with someone who could use a little light today. For extra content and more from this podcast, make sure to follow us at Instagram at letitbe.podcast. And remember, there's still beauty unfolding in your story.